morning, everybody. I'm afraid my German is poor, so I'm afraid I'll refer to you all in English if you'll allow me. Well, here we are at the O2, one of the finest arenas in the world, here in Berlin. I'm going to take a few moments, if you don't mind, just to share with you some of my thoughts and our thoughts on why we've chosen to come back here to Germany, and in particular to Berlin. It's no secret, of course, that Germany is a powerhouse of sports around the world. This country has become a world economic power in no short order. But more importantly, Berlin told the world it is a beacon for change, both culturally and economically. This nation, this city embraces change. And there's a correlation in that thought that I'd like to move on to, which is change that's happening in the sports landscape. We have a new generation. It's the next generation. That influence that they have is impacting the world that was once about football, hockey, handball. It's now about extreme sports. It's about combat. It's about snow, surf, and skate. UFC attracts that very audience. As MMA proponents, 70% of our audience are between the ages of 16 and 30 years of age. That high percentage of those demographic are actually working out in MMA. We operate 100 gyms around the world, and we plan to open more, particularly here in Germany. Our business, not just fighting, is focused on live events. It is focused on television content, of which we have over 50,000 archive hours. But it's also focused on attracting blue chip sponsors. To that family, we include Budweiser, Gillette, Ford, Unibet. Our relationship with the O2, extremely important, and our most recent addition, EA Sports. We were only formed 20 years ago, and under a barrage of criticism, we reformed in 13 years ago to change our rules and set clear regulation. Our global business now, in just 13 years, operates in over 178 countries. We broadcast in over 800 million households, 28 different languages, 450 athletes from 35 countries, no less, represented today by Mark and Gegard, both from outside of this country. Our digital measure, of course, has become everybody's de facto level of success. Let me share some numbers. The UFC has 12 million Facebook followers, 50% of them from outside the United States. We have downloaded 1.7 billion YouTube downloads in the last 5 years. UFC.com receives 7 million unique visitors a month, 4.4 million Twitter followers, and of course our claim to fame that our president, Dana White, has 2.9 million on his own. This is our third event in Germany, and we're proud to be back. There will be 9 bouts representing 10 nationalities and including the home nation represented with 2 German athletes. Our 2 headline fighters, Mark Munoz and Gegard Mousasi, ranked 7th and 12th, respectively, in the world, including in the middleweight weight division, which is one of the most highly contested in the UFC. So in closing, thank you for having us We're here at the O2 World, and we're very proud to be back. But I have to shamelessly promote something that I think is very exciting. Our ticket sales, as of this morning, continue to build and grow, but those ticket purchasers have the right to receive a free 1-month trial on our digital network, Fight Pass. All the access, all the content you could ever wish for as a UFC fan, including watching the fight live. If you unfortunately can't come to the event, €7.99 a month gets you all of that content all day long. Thank you, Germany. Thank you, Berlin. And more importantly, thank you, the O2.
This is the second try for the UFC to make a step to the German market. You've been here in 2009, 2010, and it didn't really work out that well back then. What makes you sure that this time this all will work out good? What is your plan for the second try in Germany?
Well, is this on? Sorry, can you hear this?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Not to be controversial, but I'd debate part of the question if you allow me. We're not coming here to try and make another go of it. I think the reason that we're here is we have a fan base here. The digital traffic in our world, Germany is always in the top 5. So there are people here who look for the sport. We're aware that there are many gyms opening up. There's definitely a clear fan base. Geographically, Berlin is well suited for another huge market for us, which is Poland. We attract to our events around the world people from up to 150 to 200 miles away because of the, if you like, the limited supply of the number of events. So that's the reason that we're here. I will address the fact that previously it wasn't that the events weren't necessarily successful because we sold plenty of tickets. I think there was a backlash from the media. And that was quite understandable, and we need to be respectful of that. We need to acknowledge local culture. We need to acknowledge local constitution and local governmental issues. But the truth of it is, where there's a fan base, you have to make sure that fans have a choice, and you have to give them that choice. And that's a personal opinion as much as it represents that of the UFC. So on the basis that we're here, Berlin is a great city. It's one of the world's great cities. Our sport is truly a global sport, and there is a German public that wants to see us, and that's why we're here.
Maybe a follow-up question also for Gary and maybe also for Mark. The media backlash that you talked about was mainly because of the ground and pound techniques used in the MMA fights. Hitting a grounded opponent was the main thing that the German media was scared about. Now we have a main event fighter right here who's famous for his devastating ground and pound techniques. That's what made him the star he is right now. Did you have that in mind when you put him in the main event of that card?
No, we didn't. The reason, what we won't do, and publicly, I'd like to say, what we won't do is we won't make excuses for our sport. Our sport is our sport. The rules and the regulations are our sport. Mark Munoz is one of the finest elite performing athletes in the world of sport. How he portrays that in his sport and how he goes about his business, that's entirely up to him. Now, what we also don't want to do is try and dilute or doctor our sport for any market, for any nation. But what I will say with regards to, since we were here last, I do believe that there is an education process that's continuing to undergo. And we meet regularly with the authorities in Germany who are understanding the sport. Now, the caveat to that is that you may not like the sport, but you have to be able to be given the choice. And so on that basis, we have a great card on the 31st of May here in one of the biggest cities in the world. that has an audience that is both local and captures an audience, and the eyes of the world will be on Berlin, the O2. That's what we do. That's our model, and we will continue to do that, you know, for forevermore. I think you wanted to address Mark on that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
To piggyback on Gary, MMA is a sport, and ground and pound is a lot of the technique that I use, and it's allowed within the regulations of the sport. Now you look at other sports like rugby, that's a pretty physical sport as well, and those guys don't wear any pads, and they go after each other, you know, and I bet there's a lot of concussions. I would venture to say there's a lot of concussions in rugby. I mean, it's a very, very tough physical sport. So, you know, likewise with MMA, it's a tough sport, but it's very intriguing when it comes to martial arts, and it's very, very intriguing when it comes to executing what you do best inside the octagon, and it's a chess match, so to speak. So, yeah, just to piggyback on that, you know, that we're not sorry for what we do inside the octagon. That's what we do inside the octagon. You know, and that's how I perform, and that's what I do best, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to execute. And so, you know, I'm known for that, and that's where I want to take it.
Thank you.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Chamat Karsandu from MMA Mount in the UK. Just a quick housekeeping question for you, Gary. What will the capacity be for the arena? Do we know what it's been configured to yet?
Well, the configuration varies by levels. Total capacity is in excess of 10,000.
Okay. And for Mark, you're back here in Europe.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about what it means to you to be fighting here in Europe? You fought the majority of your fights in North America for the majority of your career.
Yeah, so I've been in Europe, this is my third time now. So I've been in Birmingham, I've been in Manchester, and now I'm here in Berlin. Berlin is an awesome city, historical city, and I've been asking a lot of questions about the history of Berlin and Germany, and I love, it's intriguing to me to come to cities and travel, and you know, I get to do this and do the sport that I love, you know, so I love it. I love being here. I love learning about the city. I love learning about the wall and the history and decisions of making the wall and how it came down and all of that stuff. So it's intriguing to me. I love it.
Brilliant. Well, when we catch up a bit later on, I come in about 6 times a year, so I've got some great restaurants for you to check out.
Hey, so I'm a foodie too.
I know you
so
are. Yeah.
you gotta let me know about that.
I got you. And a question for Gegard. Is it happy to be fighting back here in Europe? Because obviously your fight, your last fight was away.
Yeah, it's close to Holland, so I don't have to deal with jet lag, and a lot of friends and family gonna visit to watch the fight, so I'm excited about that. And yeah, should be good.
Next question, Dan Picker from the Taz.
Yes, is it on? Yeah. Yes, Dan Picker from German Daily, the Taz side. One follow-up for Gary. There was obviously a lot of talk about the TV situation in Germany once showing MMA in public TV or in TV in general in Germany was forbidden by the Landesmedia Anstalt in that area. I know the UFC is challenging this decision. Can you give us any new information of how far you have come with that? Because everybody was expecting the UFC to come back to Germany once this problem would be solved.
Yes, the update is, unfortunately, like all legal process, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of resources to come to conclusion. I think what was really important, though, I joined the company 18 months ago, and we were already embroiled in the decision by the Bavarian Media Authority to take the product off television, off the air. We felt that was unconstitutional because I think you've heard me say people should be given a choice. And so we continued our fight. The courts were approached by the Bavarian Media Authority to state that the case should be upheld. There is a case, and the court basically said there is a case for the UFC to claim that it's unconstitutional. That still sits at an impasse, but it's important to note that I always look at life in two zones. One is the authoritarian view, and the other one is a personal and an emotional view. And often, resolve can come through emotion. And so we've engaged with the Bavarian Media Authority. We've now met 10 of those authorities of the 14. We've had constant dialogue with the Bavarian Media Authority who made the decision, and we're educating them about the decision. And we are making progress, and I think we've made a lot of great progress. I would like to think that there is a distribution capability in our modern world whereby you can control who watches what television show. We've seen it. If you are a Sky viewer, you have to have a PIN, you have to pay, you have to have all these protected barriers by which you can designate who watches the television and watches the product. So I think we can get there. How long it will take, I'm not sure. But of course, we're all infiltrated now with digital network. Digital viewing is as important as linear broadcast viewing. And so we're seeing more and more people watch our sport digitally from this country than any other, primarily because there's no TV broadcast.
Before the German viewers are the top 5 of digital viewing, could you give concrete numbers? How many people from Germany watch?
I haven't got the exact numbers, but I can tell you that the audience, our total audience, over 4% of it comes from this country.
Okay. And if you allow me one question for both of the fighters. I mean, you both come off a loss and against the very same fighter. So somehow it makes sense to have you matched up in order to get back on track. But on the other hand, were you surprised to get a headliner? Both of you?
You know, I think with, I'm speaking for myself. You know, I've been on the main event. This is I believe my 3rd main event, and being ranked high in the UFC and in the world. I wasn't surprised, but at the same time, you know, I am coming off a loss, and usually when you're coming off a loss, you are not in the main event. You usually co-main or are just on the regular card. So yeah, I find it to be great to be a main event, but we've been here before. You know, we've headlined events, and you know, I feel that both our names can carry a card and do it well, especially here in Europe.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Well, Mark Munoz has a great name. He has a lot of wins in UFC, and I've been fighting a long time, so it makes sense to fight in Europe, especially because I'm from Holland, and I think with Mark Munoz's style of fighting, it's going to be an exciting fight, so I think it's going to be a good fight.
I think it's also important to note, in support of the guys, that we have over 450 fighters contracted to the UFC. We're operating more and more events around the world. You're looking at 2 of the top 50, they're in the top 15 in the world. There's no excuse as to why there should be no question as to why they are a main card, because they're 2 of the top fighters in the world, of which we've got just a very limited supply.
Yeah, Michael Ginsberg from the Daily Debate. My question is, without the TV translation here, so you know, without the broadcasting, TV broadcasting, is it still like profitable to have an event here in Germany for you?
Well, as I said earlier, this fight on the 31st of May will be available in over 900 million homes. It will be available in 128 countries in 28 languages. We don't base our business model isn't based on putting an event on and hoping that the local network take it. That's a boxing model. We are a global business. We operate in all of those countries. Just because the German television networks don't want this product. It doesn't mean to say the consumers can't access it. They can access it through Fight Pass, but they can also want to see the action. So it is available to them, but it's just not on German television.
And what's actually well, if you want, like the grand strategy here in Germany? I mean, because the sport is obviously not that like popular or famous as boxing, for example, here. So what's your grand strategy to make it more popular here?
Well, I can only reference growth. I can only reference in every market that we operate the hearts and minds and imaginations of all of the fans that are being captured. Our digital figures continue to grow. We are seeing more and more fighters from Germany come through. We're seeing more and more gyms operate and open. And the question for the fans is we've got to make sure that we keep ticking the boxes on exactly what it is we do. We give live events. We broadcast those live events at various times throughout the day or throughout the week or the month. And we attract sponsors. And so that model is no different here than anywhere else. And I would hesitate, based on history, that in 13 years and the figures that I quoted and the growth that we've gone through, I can only anticipate that Germany will follow suit.
Next question. Yeah, please.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen. Gareth Davis, Daily Telegraph, BT Sport, UFC Beyond the Oxygen, Talk Sport, Good morning, all of you. First of all, a question for the two fighters. Mark, the Filipino wrecking machine, but maybe the Road Warrior is more suitable for you with, you know, you headlined in Birmingham against Chris Lieben. I think it was the first 5-round main event as well at the time, wasn't it, for the UFC? Correct. Then you headline in Manchester, now you're headlining in Berlin. What is it about you that the UFC wants to kind of send you on this mission around the world, do you think? Is it because you feel that you want to kind of preach the gospel, if you like, in places that are far-flung in a sense?
Yeah, I found myself as being a MMA apostle, so to speak, you know? Yeah, I definitely want to educate the markets on MMA and to do it professionally in a way that, you know, let people know, hey, you know, we're not just brutal and just fierce fighters inside the octagon, but we're professional athletes, and we'll act accordingly, and that's what we do, and I love going in different countries. You know, I have been a road warrior for the past year, but how often do you get to go to other countries, visit and work at the same time, and do what you love? Not very often, right? So I feel blessed to be able to do that and educate people on MMA at the same time. And you know, being in Berlin and it being a market where, you know, MMA is making a breakthrough and the UFC is making a breakthrough. I love doing that as well. So yeah.
Do you, as Gary mentioned, you're obviously, I think you're number 7 and number 12. You're number 7 in the middleweight division, and Gegard's number 12. Is there a significance about this fight in terms of getting yourself back on track to fight for the title as well?
Oh, for sure. You know, there is this fight. I think every fight in the UFC, well, yes, every fight in the UFC will get you back, will get you closer to fighting for a title. And Gegard's been doing MMA for years. I mean, he's got a great name. He's got a great international name as well, and fought many times. Very exciting fights with a lot of top fighters in the world, and you know, I have as well. And you know, we're going to get it on inside the cage, and I mean inside the octagon, and we're going to do the best that we can.
Thank you. And Gegard, obviously, you know, born in Tehran, Armenian ancestry. You're Dutch now. You're a bit of a road warrior yourself. Do you kind of concur with Mark that being a seasoned professional athlete and having the opportunity to take your sport as a pioneer into a new culture is something that you relish?
Yeah, for sure. I think it always also depends on the opponent where you fight. Let's say last fight was against Machida, so it makes sense to fight him in Brazil. So, and I think I fought all around the world, and I think for Europe, I can fight anywhere in Europe. It's, I fought in Sweden, now in Germany, so it makes sense for me to fight in Europe, and it depends on the opponent where I fight, if it's US or Brazil, but I'm happy to fight anywhere. I'm happy to get the opportunity to headline the fight, and so, yeah.
Do you, just a serious question, I mean, do you still, I mean, obviously you guys have been in, you know, someone like myself who's covered it now for a number of years, and I cover boxing as well, and I've kind of, you know, got a foot on both sides of the two sports, if you like, but, you know, it is extraordinary after a while that you find yourself going into new territories where the sport is perceived in a different way, and are you happy to be helping the changes, the perception changes about the sport by coming here?
Yeah, for sure. I think knowledge, if people understand the sport, then it's not as what they think it is. I say, I think if you educate them, they understand the sport better. It's not violence, what a lot of people think it is. It's a hard sport, but I think Mark is a great sportsmanship, and we're athletes, and I think sometimes people don't see that.
That's definitely true. Neither of you are known for your trash talking. I don't know how to trash talk. Even with Bisping, Mark. And some questions for, just a couple of questions for Garry Cook. I don't want to hog the microphone too long. I think I have already, Garry. What's the ambition, Garry, in terms of, this gentleman here asked about the long-term goals. What are the ambitions for getting UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship Mixed Martial Arts on mainstream television in Germany? Do you intend to come to Berlin as a fixture every year? And can you talk a little bit about the 5-year process? I know you inherited it 18 months ago, but what has the UFC had to go through over 5 years since we were here in Cologne in June 2009, sorry, at UFC 99?
So what are we doing? Well, it's about access, right? So you've got to make sure that the fan base, which exists, has access to the product. They want to see the product. Now, what is the product is always the key question. Well, while we have 2 great fighters right here with us, and we have over 50 events a year around the world, we've got more products than that. We have a product which is a reality television show. There isn't a country in the world that doesn't like reality television. And we have one called The Ultimate Fighter. Most of our new fighter development comes through The Ultimate Fighter. It's the longest running reality show. It was critical to the success of the UFC. And we have never had an Ultimate Fighter in Europe. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had an Ultimate Fighter 12-week series in Germany? It's really a product, it's a television product that I think people would appeal to. So what we've not done in this market is we've not given people access to the product. 97% of the fights that are fought around the world are available after 3 o'clock in the morning on television in Germany. I don't know many people who are waiting up till 3 o'clock in the morning to watch a live event. However, in countries where they do, we break all the records for people who wait up till 3 o'clock in the morning to watch a live event. So we've got to put more events during prime time. We've got to give the nation more access. And we can do that not only through television, we can do it through the digital and social media channels, including Fight Pass. And so that's about access, allowing people to get to it. And I think as Gegard and Mark said, the education process, right? Let's assume that there's a small audience now, but we're going to get a bigger audience. That audience is going to come from uneducated sports athletes, fans from wherever. We will launch on the 20th of June, EA Sports will launch the UFC game. On the front cover of that game will be Alexander Gustafsson, a Swede, who was voted by 13 million fans to be on the front cover of the global game. And that game will be available on PlayStation 4 and Xbox. Now, I know as well as you do, you don't have to be a fighter to play virtual gaming. Okay, so now we're going to expose ourselves into a virtual world. And the audience in Germany for gaming is huge. So we'll be there. We're going to open gyms here in Germany. So again, we're allowing people to use fitness, UFC fitness, as a program to access it. So what conversations are we having with the networks? Well, we've met with all of the networks. All of them are restricted by virtue of the judgment made by the Bavarian Media Authority. And so as we start to have the discussions with the media companies, they're actually helping to lobby for us with the Bavarian Media Authority because they feel that the fans are calling and asking for the product to be on television. So eventually, you have to assume that one day it'll be on television. Did that answer all three of your questions?
And every year here?
Berlin is a strategic market, and I plan to be here every year.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Next one, please. Any other questions? No? So we will...
Yes.
Yeah, one last
Sorry,
question.
tweeting with it.
Over there.
Thank you. Want to ask both Gegard and Mark a question about the middleweight division at the moment. First of all, Mark. You said that this is a fight to kind of get you back on track, but I think there's another plot here, because at the moment with the middleweight division, we don't know what's going on with Vitor. We don't know when or if he's going to fight again. And we've got the fight with Chris Weidman and Lyoto Machida coming up, but after that, there's no kind of clear-cut contender, and there's a lot of fights scheduled, including this one. And we've also seen with the announcement last week with TJ Dillashaw that even after coming off one loss and getting a win, that can get you a title shot. Can you just talk a little bit about the division at the moment and how you can maybe use that as a catalyst to get back into that title chase?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a very great question, because what happens in the UFC and in the middleweight division, and it's kind of stirred up right now with everything that you said. So a great performance inside the octagon is definitely going to put you back into the mix of things. And you just got to put your best foot forward every time. Every time you step inside the octagon, you got to be a professional athlete. You got to go out there and do the best that you can, and do it the best way that you can. And you know, with the legitimate win over Mousasi or over Gegard, it's going to be just a time where they're going to say, okay, Munoz is ready. You know, and if the time arises where I do have the chance, and I'll jump at every chance to get a title shot for sure.
Well, I think at this moment there's some contenders now. You have Vitor Belfort, Machida, some other guys, but I don't know why I'm ranked number 12. I think it's a little bit too low. And other than that, yeah, get a couple wins and hopefully we get there.
Well, speaking about the rankings, obviously you don't feel as though you're ranked where you should be. What are your thoughts on the rankings, and maybe if Mark can weigh in on this as well after Gegard?
I don't know. I was ranked at light heavyweight, but some names that are ranked above me, I think I can beat them easily. But around 8 would be good. I would be happy with that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when I look at Gegard. He's not 12 to me. You know, he's ranked high. You know, like you said, and the rankings is just a number. You know, I mean, when it comes to the quality of opponent, it doesn't really matter. Everyone knows that Gegard Mousasi is going to be an awesome fight for me, and you know, I'm not looking at the rankings really. You know, because you know, right now he's set before me, and we got to go out there and we're going to perform.
Thank you very much. So now we are going to give you the possibility to take some pictures here at the table shortly, and after outside in front of the wall, and after in front of the wall, Berlin, really outside Berlin.
Can you come a little bit closer?
How do you want this?
Don't mix your glasses afterwards.
Just one look, one look.
Okay, please look in the middle, so we can get it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Hey guys, we'll do a face-off outside with Mark.